So I'm not going to spend much time on Agile. I'm going to be focusing more on the management side. I just wanted to say I have been coming to Cluj in particular, but other places also, such as Timișoara, Brașov, and others in Transylvania for probably 20 years now, not for the past couple of years. And I really enjoy the culture and the people of your area. I love the dynamism that you show, the interest that you show, and the desire to learn. I have made a few predictions, shall I say, in the past, which have sometimes come true for the future of in Transylvania, always hoping that you will focus more on quality and really make things happen. I wanted to talk to you today about the future of management. And I just want to point out that this is the first of 5 talks I'm giving in the context of World Quality Week. So World Quality Week is officially next week. I'm starting a few days earlier, talking about the future of management in a hybrid world. I will then be giving a talk on quality is not a standard at the Cluj Software Community Conference. I will be talking at IT Days in Cluj live. I will be giving a talk on Vitruvian quality and particularly on my new book, which I am launching at the same time. And I have a workshop that is being held on the 15th in Cluj and the 17th in Timișoara. And I'm glad to say that Peak IT is offering one of you free attendance to that workshop. So at the end of this talk, I will have to choose one of the participants who gets a free entry to the workshop. If you live in Cluj or Timișoara, otherwise you will have to travel. The reason I'm talking about the future of management is because for me, everything changed 2 years ago with COVID-19. The world is a rapidly changing place. Things are going very fast for the moment. And the concept of management is changing as we find ourselves working with a team where some people are in the office and some people are at home and some people are at the customer side, and we're trying to make a team out of this, and things have changed significantly. So before we start, a couple of definitions of management. There is a different definitions as to what management is and what it's supposed to do. Largely, it is either a scientific defined way of working, a structured approach, or it can be considered as a function, a personal responsibility. The two definitions overlap, and what I'm going to say fits in both cases supposedly quite well. Manager's role traditionally is a responsibility for the satisfaction of multiple stakeholders, particularly in the context of contradictory or incompatible demands and expectations. The manager's role is to put in place, to provide whatever is needed to facilitate and improve the effectiveness of the team. Historically, there have been 2 basic approaches to management, which is a mechanistic approach or a systemic approach. The mechanistic approach largely considers that people are interchangeable, and the idea is that I need to do everything as a manager to make people work harder. People are just elements in a system. They need to be controlled on a continuous basis. They need to be measured. Everything must be formalized. The mechanistic approach to management has led to the development of the highly inefficient idea of an open plan office. The open plan office starts from the factory floor, and when workers moved to offices, the idea remained that the manager needed to see everyone and make sure that they were working. This was carried over to office spaces even when working in knowledge-based work, based on the false idea that an open plan office facilitates communication. Communication in an open plan office is downgraded by a lot of background noises and continuous interruptions, so that most people working in knowledge-based industry in open plan offices ends up with noise cancelling headphones in order to concentrate. This should not come as a surprise. It was documented by DeMarco and Lister in their book published in 1987. It has been re-verified, revalidated many times. Open plan offices do not work. They actually reduce productivity. More recently, many organizations have understood that a more flexible, flat approach works better to respond to continuous changing pressure. So rather than having formalized structures, we move people about, they join and leave teams as necessary. This all worked very nicely until 2020 happened. And when 2020 happened, everything changed. Out of nowhere, a new virus appeared and it took over everything. It took over the world. It went all the way around the world. And the world had to go into full protection mode, leaving empty streets, empty offices as people started working from home. Working from home for many was under very difficult conditions, sitting at the dining table or at the kitchen table with children, with pets, with spouses, with cooking, having to clear their work away from the desk or the table on a regular basis for meals and other things. A few were working in incredibly uncomfortable conditions because they didn't have a proper table from which to work, and some were lucky enough to have a home office. Some of us even tried working from in our beds, but that didn't always work very well. And over a while, we got to meet all our colleagues, bookshelves and cats, and we understood that things were changing for good. We understood that this was not temporary, but this was the beginning of a new world, and everything was going to change. That's what I would like to talk to you now from a management point of view. I'm going to talk to you briefly about management styles, explain the principles of management versus leadership that are very different things, talk about the management skills that are needed now more than ever, talk about the organization and how to manage complexity in order to avoid chaos in this new world. So starting with management styles, the traditional approach to most projects is I have a vision, an idea, I make a plan, I run a project, do some work, and deliver something. Very rapidly, we realize that we need to measure the progress of work so that we can replan, because things never quite happen the way we expected. A few companies realized they had these measurements and they could be used in order to improve the planning process, in order to make estimating more efficient in future projects, So we're going to not only measure the progress of this project, but we're going to measure why we got it wrong to start with. That naturally leads into understanding the need to continuously keep an eye out for risks. Things are happening in the work that we didn't expect, things that we're not sure of, and that leads us into understanding risks and opportunities, excuse me, in order to improve our work. The little graphic here gives me 4 little triangles, known, past, future, and unknown, which very nicely correspond to the parts of the brain, or the hemicycles, the 4 halves of the brain. So left brain is more memory and logic. The right brain is more imagination and future. The cerebral, the front part of the brain, is again past and future aspects. The limbic is more the unknown and the known aspects. Of course, in real life, ideas and events don't happen in 1/4 of the brain. They happen in communication throughout the brain. In other words, what I am trying to push is whole brain work, because by using your whole brain, you can decide how you are going to respond to stimuli from the world and how you can decide to influence the world. This is your last freedom. This is the one thing nobody can take away from you, is to decide how you are going to react to things. Now, as a manager, I want to encourage you to react correctly. I need to motivate you to react the right way. And for that, I need to get all 4 corners of your brain involved. So I need your rational and responsive aspects. I need your physical aspects, your reflective and your reactive aspects. So the first thing I need to do is I need you to get to accept the need to do something or to change. The acceptance, I accept personally that I should be doing more physical activity. I should exercise more. I should be doing something more challenging than sitting at my desk. I've accepted that. I'm not doing anything about it, though. The second aspect is I need, as a manager, to provide you the ability to do it. I need to give you the tools. I need to give you the budget. I need to give you the time. I need to give you the requirements and so on so that you can do it. Again, I accept I have to exercise more. I could go cycling. I could go to a gym. I could do all kinds of things. I could just do push-ups in the morning before getting up, or just after getting up, not before. And yet I don't do anything. The third thing I need to provide you as a manager is the aspiration. And that means I want you to aspire to the result. I want you to want it. I want you to understand the value of this so that you will do it. And I aspire to better physical condition. I aspire to having the body of a 20-year-old, which is very unlikely to happen. But I'm still not doing anything about it, because probably the most difficult aspect in management is changing the attitude of people. And that's what we need to focus on, is how, once I have got you to accept, provided you with the ability, motivated you to aspire to the final result, how do I change the attitude? And that's part of the key role of managers. We need to motivate. We need to balance competing demands. We need to decide when to intervene, when to sit back, how to give instructions to the team, how to give instructions to the individual. There are 2 general approaches to this. the proactive manager, the subdued manager is the one who leads from the back. Management is basically giving someone a stick. And with that stick, you have to decide how you're going to act. Are you going to be a proactive, controlling manager who makes people do things? Are you going to be a subdued, guiding manager who helps make things happen? Of course, some people act differently when you give them a stick. If you give some people a stick, they will inspire you. They will do something to lead you, to inspire you to do something better. Some people will try to dominate. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not much into people who want to dominate. Some people want to accompany, prepare you, and transfer their knowledge to you. Now, these are different types of management and leadership skills, which we need to consider. So, first of all, I want to make clear management and leaders are very different people. It is very rare, if possible, for a good manager to be a good leader, for a good leader to be a good manager. It's a different mindset. The manager knows the budget, knows the problems, knows where we are, and doesn't want to rock the boat. The leader has a vision, wants to get you there, no matter what the cost, what happens. And when we consider management and leadership, we come to largely 4 different types of management: directing, coaching, supporting, delegating. They've got different focuses. They try to do different things. And the key is to find out for your team, what is the right approach? Now, I'm assuming most people are familiar with the concept of teams that form, storm, norm, perform. So forming phase, I have got a young team. They're eager to start. It's a new project. It's exciting. We got a new environment, new tools. We're going to make things happen, but we don't really know why. As we start work, people start getting upset with each other. They start getting angry with each other. Why is he doing that when I could do it better? Why is she in charge and not me? And so on. We then move past that into the norm phase, where work is happening, things are being done, and then hopefully into the perform phase, where we're really going to make big progress and be a team that people want to be part of and emulate. The type of management or leadership you provide depends on the type of team you are in. And it might vary by sub-team. So not everyone in the team is necessarily at the same level. You might still have people that are a couple of people storming when the rest are already in the norm phase. So when you're managing your team, you need to understand what phase is my team in, what is the type of support or direction do I need? Is it a formed team and I need to be with them and I need to guide them and I need to run with them and I need to pass them the baton as in a relay race so that they understand what to do? When we get into the storm phase, I need more control. I need to have more feedback, give more feedback, which encouraging, explaining, clarifying, supporting. I need to guide, but I also need to hold back a bit. Once we get in the norm phase, then everything is nice. I'm just like an orchestra leader. I'm assigning activities. People are doing it. I just need to keep things running smoothly and make sure there are no big mistakes. In the perform phase, I can relax. I am just there as a cheerleader giving the rhythm. That's not quite true. I'll come back to that. There's a little bit more to that. So in Since 2020, management skills have evolved. So the traditional skills of a manager are still there. You need to be able to communicate with every individual in the team, with the whole team, with the customers, with senior management, with suppliers, with whoever. You need to be able to reach out and speak to them. You need leadership by example. In other words, you must never ask your team to do something you are not willing to do yourself. I didn't say able to do, I said willing to do. You need to inspire. You need to work with conflicts, with team development, mentoring, negotiating, troubleshooting. These are all traditional skills of a manager. They're all staying, they all have to be there. However, since COVID and since the start of hybrid teams, there are a number of additional skills we need to talk about. These are either new skills, which were not necessary before, or they are significantly stronger needs or slight variations on the traditional need. I'm going to go through them alphabetically because I don't want to give the feeling that one is more important than another. The first one is adjustment. You need to adjust, you need to be able to react, to stay calm. Things are changing, okay? Things are going to fall apart. You need to stay calm. You will be talking to the team as a manager more often than you used to because you're going to have online meetings and not just physical meetings. So you need to give that feeling of calm. You need to show that you are in control. You need to not, you might be surprised, but remember the problems that are presented to you are challenges. You can overcome them. Keep your peace of mind. That's the most important thing always. Remain calm. The next one is ambiguity management. Hybrid teams present specific problems. So in tests that have been done previously, we found that people working from home on average are about 13% more productive than people working in an office. And that is because they are working at their own rhythm. They are working at 6 o'clock in the morning for some of them. They are working at 11 o'clock at night for others. They're working on their own time scale and they are producing. They are being less interrupted. They can focus on, they're in a comfortable mode. So that's very positive. However, now I'm bringing in new people. The team is growing. The new people are coming into an empty office. I need someone there. I need my old team there to surround them, to support them, to mentor them, to bring them up to speed, to show them how things work, where things are. So I have to choose, are you going to work efficiently alone, or are you going to come into the office? What is best? Some people want to be in the office and are desperate when they come in the office and find it empty. Others don't want to come into the office and are not happy when they are forced to come in for a meeting that could be done over Zoom. So you've got this ambiguity, which is part of everyday life, which you need to decide what is the best approach. Change management is not something new. It has always been there, but change is happening faster and faster. Change has been a key characteristic of the world since the Industrial Revolution in the 15th century. It is happening faster and faster. Everything is changing. You need to be able to manage it. Every change is a risk that needs to be managed. It needs to be controlled. It needs to be managed. And that includes someone new joining the team. It includes a customer suddenly canceling their contract. It includes new technology, whatever it is. you need to be there, you need to be able to manage and understand it. Collaboration, when in a team, as a manager, you have got a number of different roles. You have got to initiate the work. You've got to invite the right people into the team. You've got to create a safe space for them in which they can work, they can concentrate, they can share ideas, they can make mistakes without getting into trouble. That means also you have to be a gatekeeper, holding back external interference, even if it is your CEO who is coming to try to disrupt your team by asking them to do something special, out of the ordinary, different. You have to be the gatekeeper. You are the point of connection between your team and the outside world, between your team and senior management, between your team and the customer, between your team and other teams, between your team members. And you are also a participant in the team. You have to work in the team with the team. And so at every moment in time, you have to decide what is your position vis-a-vis the team. Sometimes you have to be in the spotlight. You are defending your team in front of management or in front of the customer. You are defending management and the customer in front of your team, not criticizing. You have to defend them. They are not expected, they should not be allowed to speak directly to your team without your acceptance. And you have to justify what they are doing. So you are in the spotlight, you are the manager. Working within the team, you have to work inside the team, you have to be with the team, you have to understand what they are doing, you have to participate in the reviews, you have to be visible. And then sometimes you have to be outside the team, looking down on it, deciding what are the risks coming up. Is there a conflict that might be starting up somewhere? Who is leading who? How can we make the team more efficient? And probably the last position is the most important. You need time alone. And time alone means not in front of your computer, not answering emails, not filling in MS Project charts. It's time alone to think, to plan, to strategize. This is an important step. You need to block off some of your time to be alone, to work on the future. As a manager, you need compassion. You need to understand the problems your team members are going through, and you need to be there with them. Compassion means this person is working from home, his spouse is sick, she needs to pick up children from school, whatever it is. If you are working remotely, you should not be expected to be at your desk from 9 to 5. That defeats the purpose, of working remotely. So I understand there are problems. You have got family problems. You have got all kinds of things that could happen that need to be taken care of. As a manager, I need to understand that and work with you. Typically, we talk about conflict management and conflict resolution. I'm not happy with those terms. The problem with conflict management and conflict resolution is that very often when there is a conflict between two individuals, one of them goes away frustrated because things did not work out, management took the opposite point of view. Or the problem over which there is conflict is being swept under the carpet and ignored. Conflict transformation is something else. It is saying, there is an energy here. I want to use that energy. The conflict is creating an energy. How can I use that to benefit the team? It's like the spark plug in a motor. The spark plug creates an explosion. And that explosion is productive, not destructive. That explosion, when it makes your petrol explode within your motor, it gives the impulse to move forwards. And that's what we have to try to do. So go back, find out where this comes from. Why was there conflict? What is the origins of it? And how can we turn this into something positive? This is one aspect. There are many other aspects where curiosity, as a manager, you need to be curious. You need to be continuously looking for the things you did not know and try to understand why you did not know. Is somebody trying to hide something for you, or is it just that this never came up? You need to find out about your remote workers' family life. Are they all alone at home? Are they in panic mode? What is happening? You need to go beyond your duty and find out what is happening. You also need to work on ethics. Ethics is typically something that we talk about, we put it on mugs or on posters and then ignore completely. As a manager, as a leader, you need to demonstrate your ethics. You are continuously being pulled between conflicting priorities between your business, your personal, and your professional lives. These conflicts have to be managed visibly. You need to show that this is how you do things, and it's not just something you talk about. You need a lot of intelligence. And by intelligence, I don't mean knowing things. That's something else. Intelligence means understanding, applying logic, being aware of yourself, have emotional knowledge, critical thinking, problem solving. All the different aspects of intelligence are important in a management case, and especially if you've got a hybrid team. You have to have the knowledge to know what is important, what is less important. Know what your team knows. Know who knows what. How do I get them to communicate this properly? You need to be able to motivate your team. You need to be able to motivate not to do what you tell them to do, but to want to do a good job, to want to do better, to want to deliver faster, in budget, higher quality. You've got to establish mutual trust. Your team members must trust you. So that means that your communication in action, in words, in documents has to be aligned. Your documents need to be aligned and showing that this is how we are doing things and it works. The graphic here is part of my Vitruvian quality book, which I'm not going to advertise now, or did I? Very important as a manager, you need psychology. Everybody within your team, everybody listening to me right now is completely unique. Through your DNA, your ancestry, through your education, your studies, the things you have experienced, you have a completely unique point of view. As a manager, I need to understand this. I need to understand what are the things that are going to frustrate you. At what point are you going to get fed up with the whole job and not do it properly anymore so that I can react on time? And I need to understand the psychology of my team members as well as my own. I need to know my own limits. I need to know what makes me angry so that I can control it. Risk awareness is foundational. For me, this is part of your job every day, everybody. You have to be looking for risks at all times. Risks fall outside your scope, that's fine. You report them, you tell whoever it is, okay? You want to actively look at the future and find out what could possibly go wrong, who do I need to tell this, and can they do something about it in order to reduce the risk? A key aspect of management, of course, is sociology. Sociology is managing the wisdom of your team. The wisdom is the experience, the knowledge that your team has that allows them to react correctly and rapidly to unforeseen, unplanned, and unknown events. Right? You understand this, you work within your team's culture. You might need to change the culture, but even when changing the culture of your team, which is a very delicate operation, it can be done. You need to work within the culture. Listen to your team, listen to their experience, their complaints, their suggestions. Make sure your values are clear. What is important to you as an individual and a business? Make sure you respect families, communities. Make sure you reach out to people who are having difficulties rather than blaming them. Educate your colleagues. Train them. If they have to move to a different position, make sure they have the skills and the knowledge to do it. Most organizations end up looking something like this. There is a small group of people down here who are doing what the customer wants. These are the people who are writing code and building widgets. Everybody else is trying to control them. When you are at the bottom of this hierarchy, facing a customer, and you have a decision to make, in many organizations, you are required to pass that question up to the management level and wait for them to respond. This can take hours, days, weeks, depending on the business you are in. Every level of middle management is going to change the question because they misunderstood, because they didn't remember, or because they're worried they will get into trouble if they tell it the way it is. And the answer you get might be inappropriate for what the customer asked you, and it might be too late. This is not acceptable in the 21st century. It has lots of flaws to it, and it needs to evolve. In the traditional hierarchy, doing the right thing for the customer is less important than getting a promotion, obeying the rules. Good engineers, valuable members are promoted to become inefficient managers instead of being rewarded for being highly effective engineers. You want to try to bring this down. Make sure that your team understands the organization and understands how all the different elements of the organization work together in order to produce what it is that you create. So you are consuming things, you are producing things, you are resisting external pressures, and as an organism, you have to understand that. So if you want to get rid of the hierarchy and empower people, you have got an additional challenge, which is that before you can empower people, you have to give them the power to be empowered. You have to give them some level of control. Now, one of the approaches that I recommend for this is what we call a cell-based organization, in which small cells of people doing a similar job work together to resolve their own problems. So I'm going to get all my project managers together on a weekly basis, and they alone are going to decide how to solve project management problems within the business. So a cell is a group of people, it is a team of people working together, meeting on an ongoing basis to sort out their own problems and make decisions within the context of their responsibility. So by removing the hierarchy, we need to start managing ourselves within the context of an organization. And that is where we encounter the complexity issue. Complex means, very simply, difficult to understand by someone with average intelligence. Simple is easy to understand by someone with average intelligence. Simplistic means it's too simple and doesn't work. In many organizations at this point, we are running into trouble because people are complex, tools are complicated, theories are simple. Even my theories are simple. And we run into the problem when complex people are trying to put simple solutions to complex problems. Now, if you try and apply a simple solution to a complex problem, you are going to create a chaotic result. So you need to understand this, and you need to say, I cannot accept that by just doing this, I'm going to solve all the problems. You need to learn to understand within your expectations and environment, what is the current situation? Is this a simple problem, complicated, complex, or chaotic? And you need to do the analysis. To do the analysis, I strongly recommend David Snowden's Cynefin framework. I'm not going to go into explaining it, but it is a framework that helps you to identify where your problem is. It doesn't tell you how to solve it. It helps you identify this is complicated, complex. How do I move into a better solution? So you analyze rationally before jumping. Because of complexity, we often fail because of systems thinking. Systems thinking frequently focuses on the end result and fails because it is being so idealistic, so optimistic. We want to start implementing complexity thinking. We're starting from the current situation, understanding the current situation and the general direction we want to move in. I'm going to take one step, analyze the situation, take the next step, and so on. And I am going to do this with the help of the cynics. Cynics are wonderful people. Cynics are the people who don't believe you, who are there to challenge you. Generally, people prefer questions over impositions. If you tell someone to do this without explanation, they're going to react badly. Especially cynics, ask them the question, how would you do this? How can I simplify this? How would you rather see it? What do you think is the right approach? Cynics are incredibly valuable people. Include them in defining, designing, developing, deploying any solution you are trying to implement. Cynics are the black sheep. Black sheep, let's talk cartoons for a moment. Walt Disney created cartoons, largely in the world, was very structured, very well organized. Next to that, we have a small startup company who I will, the name escapes me now, this is ridiculous. Anyway, this small startup company who challenged everything. They didn't do it Disney's way, they decided to do it their own way, with leadership of people like Steve Jobs. And oh God, I'm sorry, I can't remember what the name of the company is. Anyway, someone's probably put it in the chat already. They changed the whole thing. They changed everything. They ran into problems. They went out and found the cynics who were going to solve the problems. They went out and found the people who were not listened to, the black sheep, the ones that were largely ignored. Those are the ones that can bring you the solutions to the problems that everybody else considers as normal. So, conclusion, what have I been talking about? Number one rule in management, remember it is people who do things, processes, policies, tools, audits, controls, KPIs, metrics, life cycle, all of that is only useful to the extent that they help your people be more effective in delivering better quality. You therefore have to work with the people. You have to continuously be there to encourage them, to motivate them. You have to listen to them. You have to accept responsibility for everything that goes wrong and see how you can help. People are stressed, are having breakdowns. When you're all in an office, I can see that someone in a corner isn't speaking anymore. I can see there's a problem. When you're working remotely, I don't see that. So I need to pay attention to it. I need to measure the interaction. I need to measure the morale of my team members. Obviously, when we are talking measurement, I want to be very careful because we have ruined a lot of things by putting in place bad measurements. Management traditionally has understood you need to measure and have focused on measuring the easy things, money and time, and ignored the important things, quality, improvement, and so on. So you want to measure things, absolutely, but you want to measure things understanding how this is going to impact your organizational wisdom, how you are going to be able to predict better the results and the outcomes of future projects because you have measured and analyzed things correctly. You have to remember that we like to be in control. We like to take control. So you want to give challenges to people, reasonable challenges. We want to be in charge of our destiny. Stress is an extremely demotivating, destructive force, which comes mainly from not being in control of your own life and your own decisions. In order to make sure that you are getting it correctly, you want to make sure that there is continuous feedback. As CEO, as general manager, as team leader, you want your people to give you feedback continuously, and you want to give them feedback continuously. Yearly performance reviews are bad. They are destructive and they should be abolished. I want feedback every time it is useful. And when I am giving feedback, when you are giving feedback, you want to make sure that you are trying to assist somebody. Don't just tell them this is rubbish. Tell them what they've done wrong, how they can do it better. Make sure that your feedback is actionable, that they can actually do something with it, that they can put something in place to make things better. When you are receiving feedback, as a manager or as an employee, appreciate the fact that someone cares enough to come and tell you about it, that someone is interested enough to come and share their actionable feedback with you. Then, after you have appreciated the effort and the feedback, then you can decide if you are going to accept or discard it. You don't have to implement everything people tell you, but you need to make sure you're doing sufficiently listening to them. As a manager, you are not there to manage. You are not there to bully people into doing what you say. You are not there to dictate the solutions or the methodology or the method. You're not even there to motivate people. That's more of a leadership job. As a manager, your main role is to satisfy the innate desire that everybody has to take pride in the value of their own work. Take pride in your work, allow people to take pride in their work. And I will leave you with a little bit of history going all the way back to Apollo's temple in the city of Delphi in ancient Greece. Number one, know yourself. Number 2, don't do anything to excess. Number 3, certainty brings ruin. And that's where I finish my talk for today. And I am opening up for questions. I don't know if there are questions in the chat.
Yes, there are, Peter. Thank you very much for your presentation. We have questions here in the chat, and there is also a very, very nice prize that comes from you. Place a ticket to your classes, to your training. You can all hear me. Yeah, it's okay. Good. So let me read you the first question from the chat. How was the 13% more efficient when working from home was calculated? Is this on average? If it is, do you think that people who were not so efficient at the office are less efficient at home, and those who were efficient at the office are more efficient at home, and this is causing burnout? So this question is from Andrei.
Okay, you've just overridden my shared book list. Can I put that back up for a sec?
Sure, yes.
It's a good question. So when I say, I just wanted to quickly advertise my own books while I'm here. Okay, so that's probably shouldn't be doing that. Okay, if you want to contact me for further information, please feel free to do so. Right, where people, I will stop it now. I will stop. You can put your slide back up now.
My colleague will do that. Yes.
Okay. When the measurements of productivity say that productivity increased by 13%, obviously that is a proportional increase. That means that the people who were less productive in the office are 13% more productive, but they are still only there. Okay, it's 13% of wherever they were. The reason for being productive is the ability to work at your own speed, at your own rhythm, and at your own time. It is actually a risk, because you are working from home, you can decide, and most people who work from home fall into this trap. I wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock, and the first thing I do is check my emails before saying hello to my spouse. At 10 o'clock at night or 10:30, I'm going to go to bed, and before going to bed, I'm quickly going to do that. You are not limited by office hours. The other thing is that when you are working in knowledge-based industry, and when we're talking IT, that is knowledge-based industry, you need time to think. And you are going to come across, whatever your job, you're going to come across problems you cannot solve, and you're thinking about it and trying to work through it, and keeps on failing. And the issue here is you're not allowed to think in the office. If you are in the office and you just want to spend 10 minutes not doing anything, staring out the window, you will probably get in trouble. People will start talking behind your back, and that's an issue. When you are at home and you are stuck and you are blocked by somebody, nobody is judging you. You can go and walk the dog, and while you're walking the dog, think about the solution and come back 20 minutes or an hour later and continue working. You get to put in the brakes at the time when you need them, and not at the time when your colleagues think you should be having a break.
Okay, we have 2 more questions, and I will ask you please to be short in your answer if you can, because we are running over time, but they're very, very good questions. So a question from Mihna: how can you give feedback without employees feeling like all their actions are monitored? And questions from Mihai: how do we maximize our human connection in a hybrid working world?
Okay. You give feedback constructively. There are only two types of feedback, okay? There's positive feedback, which is useless. You did a good job, well done, pat on the back, congratulations. It gives me a nice warm feeling and serves no purpose. And the opposite is constructive feedback. And you do constructive feedback carefully. I liked your talk. Do you think you should consider this aspect next time in addition to this? Have you considered this other option? So do it gently, all right? You are not criticizing, you are making suggestions. Ask it as questions. How do you maximize human connection? I do not think it is a good idea to work from home every day. I think it is a good thing to come into the office, have a team meeting on a regular basis, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, and just brainstorm, talk to people. Some people might want to come in every day, that's fine. Some people will resist coming in twice a week, but I think it's necessary to some extent. Now, one of the big advantages of hybrid is I can have people working in my company who live 500 kilometers away and are working in the business every day. That's a big advantage. They cannot come in every day. When they do come in, maybe once a month, then I have the whole team there to welcome them and we work together for a day. And obviously you've got all the existing tools that are there. We've got more communication tools now than we've ever had, and more communication tools will be there next week and next month and next year. So use them.
Thank you, Peter. So now we are in that moment when you are making the choice who will be elected to go to your training. We had 3 questions and just wanted to add, if you can, and if those who are with us can, maybe you can meet others who still have questions, you may meet in the lounge. But from these questions, what is your choice?
May I ask a quick question first to everybody? You should have a raise hand option. If you would like to attend the workshop in Cluj or Timișoara, could you please raise your hand? There's no point in me choosing somebody who is not going to be anywhere near there.
Okay, let's see if it's working.
So I've got 2 raised hands for the moment. Mihailo, how do we maximize human connections? I'm sorry, I have to choose one of you. I'm going to choose Mihai. Okay. A lot of my workshop is on the topic of how do you change the culture? How do you work with the people? How do you maximize the connections between people? So Mihailo, I'm looking forward to seeing you in Cluj or in Timișoara, I don't know. And I hope it's useful. And I am very sorry to Mihnea, but I've only got 1 ticket to give out.
Thank you. And you have some answers. Mihai says, thank you. Mihnea says, no problem. And I have to say that we will contact the winner with all the details. So Peter, thank you very much for these presentations. I hope you all had some inspiration from Peter. Thank you very much.